Coming up on iOS today, we are back from the break. It is the new year, and that means it's time to lock in those habits, set those resolutions if you have them, and, just make for a better year all in all. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Our Crowd. Our Crowd helps accredited investors invest early in pre-IPO companies alongside professional venture capitalists. Join the fastest growing venture capital investment community at ourcrowd.com/twit. And by Hover. Whether you're a developer, photographer, or small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year.
I forgot which way it goes. I'm so confused. Oh, wow.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've been shaken up, but we are back in the saddle. I hope you enjoyed the best of episode. It was a look back at the fun stuff that we talked about this year, or last year, actually. I'm still learning to change that 2-1 to a 2-2. But now that we're back, typically this becomes the time of year where we talk about resolutions. And we are going to broaden that concept a little bit with apps and suggestions because, of course, this is iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePodOS, iPadOS. Oh, man, it's all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and we're excited about it. Of course, I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard. I'm very excited to be back here again. Yay!
Yay, back in the saddle. So this is an interesting topic, given that this tends to be the time where people will set resolutions for themselves. They say, hey, this year I resolved to do blank, 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 and blank. And the joke that is also not so much a joke, because it often is the case, is that by the time January rolls to an end, or for some people, February rolls to an end, they have given up on those resolutions that they set for themselves. Because of that, I don't do resolutions. I know myself too well, and I know that I would beat myself up over not holding to resolutions. So the solution to that is just not have them in the first place. But there have been some hacks over time that people have come up with that kind of help you make certain changes that you want to make, but in a way that is more free flowing, in a way that gives you kind of some room. And what it ends up being is an opportunity for growth. And I think that that is what these apps that we're talking about today are all about. It's not necessarily about setting a specific resolution, although in some cases it can be, but it's about setting yourself up for success. And the first app is a long time mention on the show, but in particular, since the introduction of widgets. Rosemary, do you want to tell us about the first pick today?
Yeah, so the first pick I'm going to talk about today is Widgetsmith by David Smith, or David_Smith, as he's often known, because David Smith is, of course, a commonly taken name on social media. So he had to add some underscores. That's where that name comes from. And Widgetsmith allows you to put custom widgets on your home screen. So you can do things like put photos. And he recently added a really cool feature where you can put filters on the photo without modifying the original photo, which is really, really lovely. But one of the things that I used to like to use Widgetsmith for are custom text widgets, where you can just write a specific piece of text and put it in a widget, and you can mix this in with a whole stack of other widgets. And especially if you've got auto rotate turned on that stack, then that text that you've written will come up time and time again for you to see, which means that, of course, as well as, seeing things like some photos, maybe your calendar or something like that, you can also see something that you've written to yourself, a lovely message that you've written that reminds you of maybe what your goals are or what you're aiming for and things like that. And that's one of the reasons why I really love Widgetsmith, because you can just do these, and there's so many custom themes and everything that you can just completely customize it to look however you want, however fits your home screen and your goal and your personality, whatever you need. need. And of course, it works on iPhone and iPad. It also works on macOS, I should mention. And I just think that it's a great way to get your resolutions or your goals or something that motivates you in front of your face every day.
Indeed, that idea of a sort of general theme for your year, a thing that you sort of want to focus on, be it a word or a phrase, or if it's change, if it's commitment, if it's joy, if it's any number of things that could possibly be, to have a reminder there in kind of beautifully written, depending on which typeface you use and which colors you choose to use, is a really nice thing to just kind of have that in the back of your mind, popping up as you are looking at your device and scrolling through, looking at things. Widgetsmith, of course, even outside of this, is just a great app to have, given all of the different tools it has available for your iPhone or your iPad, and again, even for your Mac, with different widgets, including, a simple calendar, photos, and even extra large widgets where you can have photos in an album, which is really cool, so that if you've got, maybe your favorites album that you want to kind of scroll through those over time, it can be the temperature along with your photo. It can be the day. I like to have the day of the week and the day of the month on my calendar at all times. A countdown where you can actually say, maybe you've got visiting your family coming up somewhere in the middle of 2022, being able to go and look for that, or being able to go in, drop that in, and be able to keep track of that. The sunrise and sunset, again, date information, weather information, upcoming events from your calendar, reminders, astronomy. There's so much built into Widgetsmith by default that lets you just completely customize how your home screen looks. And I think that's what makes that app magnificent, even if you don't want to use it for a resolution. Just having it on your screen for all of the things that it can do is very handy. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is a bit of art and a bit of keeping track of what's going on. Tell us about Tickmate, the 1-bit journal.
Yeah, so I mentioned Tickmate before on the show. I mentioned it just before Christmas as one of my app caps. And Tickmate is just a sort of vertical calendar where you can check off every day that you've done something, or every day that you haven't done something. If maybe there's something that you've been doing that isn't so good for you, that you want to, work on doing a little bit less. And of course, this app is great as well because it has widget support, so you can put it right on your home screen where you're going to see it all the time. It works on iOS and iPhone and iPad, of course, as well. And it's free. It's free to download. It does have a couple of, it has a single in-app purchase, for groups. So you can have groups of habits of things that you're tracking. And that's $1.99. But aside from that, it's completely free. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying this app for just keeping track of things and making things work. I also love the fact, the little Easter egg for people, that if you add walk your pet as a habit that you want to keep track of, the icon is a bunny, because that's just adorable and slightly ridiculous. But it means that cat people and dog people, can both argue over whether or not it should be a cat or a dog.
That's very smart. So now I've got two different items that I've added: play an instrument and walk my pet. And you can see that there's an option to allow multiple. So if you've got, if it's a drink water thing, for example, or if you practice 2 times a day, you can have that turned on, or reversed, where it will be ticked by default, meaning that you do that thing. But if you tap on it, then it's like, I didn't do that thing today, which is what I was trying to do. So maybe it's, trying to avoid smoking or something like that, where it's ticked by default because that is the expectation. But what your goal is to not do that thing. So then you can set that up. And I like that, again, as you add more to this, it starts to make a pretty visual of your success. And so you've got all these pretty colors that are coming together to show, hey, look, I've been sticking to these habits. I've been really building things out. I've got this beautiful streak going on here that is proving that I'm sticking to these things, these habits. So a very neat app available for free in the App Store with some in-app purchases. The next one is one that I tend to mention rather often. But that is because this app is near and dear to my heart. I use it all the time, quite literally every day. And it is an app that will help you not only create habits, but also make sure that you don't ignore the thing that you need to get done. This app is called Do. It's available for $6.99 in the App Store, and it's worth every single penny. Do is a reminders app, and on the face of it, it's very simple. You can create a to-do list item. So I could say, take my medicine. Maybe you have a medicine that you take every day. And so you say, take my medicine at 11 a.m. And every day at 11 a.m., it will pop up a reminder. That's the normal part of it. But what makes Do so special is that Do gives you the ability to keep reminding you until you complete the task. It is incredibly persistent, and it is the reason why I complete the tasks that I need to complete. I pop something into Do, and chances are very, 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 very high that I'm going to get that thing done, because you can set how often you get it to bug you again. So the default is every 5 seconds, but you can set it up from there. If it's a task that I just need to get done that day at some point, I'll typically do 15, 30, or an hour. And so if I see the thing pop up and I don't mark it off, an hour later, it'll come up and bug me again. For medicine that I need to take every day, it's every 5 seconds. So if I don't do it and I go away and go do something else, 5 seconds later, it's saying, hey, you need to take that. Oh, right. You're right. I need to go do that. And then I end up getting distracted again. And then, hey, did you not hear me? You need to do this. And then I do it. And sometimes it's 5 times. Sometimes it's just the 1 time. Sometimes it's 3. It's all so good at making sure you get something done. And I also like, too, that it is very intuitive in terms of the ability to set up a task that you want to add to your list. So when you go to add a task, it will give you some times. So like, I think, well, let me see. I'll check my app. It'll give you some specific times, and these are all able to be changed. So here, I'll show you. Remind me to, it says at the top, and I can type in something. Eat some broccoli, we'll go with. And right now it has an hour from now is the given time, but below it you'll see I can set it for 9:30 a.m., 12 p.m., 6:30 p.m., 10 p.m., and then I have these buttons to add or subtract 10 minutes, to add or subtract an hour, to add or subtract 3 hours, or to add or subtract a day, so that I can very easily dial in without having to kind of figure out exactly what I want to do to swipe through a bunch of things. The idea here is that you can do everything with just kind of one hand pretty quickly. Up at the top are the options for snoozing, where I said seconds. I definitely meant minutes earlier.
I was going to ask if you meant minutes, because I do that as well. I think it was seconds since it last reminded me. Oh, no. It was actually like a good 5-10 minutes ago that it actually bugged me to do this thing, which is, of course, something that I always get distracted whenever I'm supposed to be doing something. Absolutely. So I think this is fantastic. This app is, again, like a daily use app. And anytime Anthony asks me for something for work, it is one of those things where I'm like, oh, I have got to pop that into Do, or else I am going to forget it. I've got all sorts of things in here, including meds for my dogs, for example, that they take once a month. So it doesn't just have to be daily tasks or every other day or anything like that. It can be long term. I've got a few things that are even yearly, they're annual things. Those are in here as well. And I should note that Do also has some fun
other options. It's got some timers built in. So there's a coffee steeping timer, there's a tea timer, there's a laundry timer, and there's a power nap timer. I don't use the timers. I just have never needed to. I exclusively use it for the reminders, and even still, that $6.99 is like so worth what it cost to be able to use Do. So I saw you pull up Do too. That must mean you use it as well.
Yeah. I use Do all the time. I do have a little tip for people. If you're going to do a recurring reminder, then you should probably go ahead and do something to make it stand out when you see it, because otherwise you're going to get used to seeing the same thing again and just be like, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to water my plants. And so what I do is I go ahead, I just add an emoji to these things. So I usually pop a microphone or something in there for recording a podcast. And also another tip, there's a search bar at the top of Do. And if you type in that, you can also just add a new reminder straight from there. And if it's sort of the day of that you're supposed to have done the thing, then you can just go ahead and add it into the past and bam. And now I can go ahead and tap on this and change it and set it to repeat on Tuesdays at 16:45 to make sure I'm ready for iOS today. Because I do love that feature with you.
Yes. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break before we come back with some more great apps to launch off your year successfully. But first, I want to tell you about Our Crowd, who are bringing you this episode of iOS Today. All around the world, tech companies are innovating and driving returns for investors. Our Crowd analyzes companies across the global private market, selecting those with the greatest growth potential. Then it brings them to you. From personalized medicine to cybersecurity, to robotics, quantum computing, and more, in state-of-the-art labs, startup garages, and anywhere in between, Our Crowd is identifying innovators so you can invest when growth potential is greatest. It's at the early stages. Our Crowd is the fastest growing venture capital investment community. Our Crowd's accredited investors have already invested more than $1 billion in growing tech companies. 21 of the portfolio companies are unicorns, and many of Our Crowd's members have benefited from over 40 IPOs or sale exits of portfolio companies. Accredited investors can participate in single company deals for as little as $10,000 or one of Our Crowd's funds for as little as $50,000. A minimum of $10,000 is required to invest. Investment terms may vary depending on where you invest. Find out more information when you go to the site and input the country you are investing from. Now, you can invest in Bluetree, who could revolutionize the $1 billion plus total addressable food tech market. Bluetree has developed a process to significantly reduce the sugar in any natural liquid, lowering health risks while retaining great taste. Bluetree has already signed a 5-year, 100 million liter contract with an industry leader. So invest today at Our Crowd. Invest in Bluetree at OURCROWD.com/twit. You can join Our Crowd for free at OURCROWD.com/twit. Join the fastest growing venture capital investment community at OurCrowd.com/twit. Thank you, Our Crowd, for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Now let's get in the habit with Henry.
So Henry is a habit tracking app that I introduced you, Mikah, to last year on iOS Today. And I feel it's such a great habit tracking app that more people need to know about it because I do use it now. This being the start of the year, I've wiped it and started over. So I need to go ahead and add my first habit. And what I like about Henry is they have the logic behind the habits as well to help you build them so that you actually know what's going to be good for you and maybe what's not so good. And it even suggests things as well. So for example, go for a walk at weekends. That's definitely going to be one of my new habits. And then there are some tips to help you stick with it. So that once you've added it, it's not just a case of this habit hanging around and never being checked off in your habit tracker. It's actually, it got information which is going to help you get things done. And of course, getting things done means better dogs because Henry up here is a lovely little dog and you can change him out to be other cute dogs when you get more points. So this is Henry. Sorry, Henry is a cat. There's also Milo, Joey, George, Emma, Sasha, Charlie, Lucy, Oscar, Ollie, Toby, Boris. And those are your choices. Now, if I restore all of my success in the app, then I will get most of those back. But I love the fact that you can work towards earning this as part of building better habits because, why not have some fun with your habits?
Charlie the Chihuahua is so cute. I have to unlock Charlie. This gamification is really clever. What I need to do is just bring over some of the to-do list items that I have and do to this and just remember to check them off here so I can unlock Charlie. Because I don't use this app regularly, so I don't get to sort of unlock these things, but it would be nice to do. I think, Henry Habit is delightful. I think it's now called Habits with Henry. They've renamed it. So if you're having trouble finding it in the App Store, you can look it up that way. But we do, of course, have links. And at $1.99, this app is well priced, especially given kind of the built-in integrations. And as they are pointing out on the site, the psychology behind it that lets you, that gives you information for gamifying this experience to try and encourage you to check off your habits. Yeah, unfortunately, the cat's name is Henry with a Y at the end, not Henry with an I at the end, otherwise known as Henri, which is my Chihuahua. But if Charlie the Chihuahua had any other name, it would be Henry with an I. This next one, we actually had the developer of this app on the show in the past, Sawyer Blatz, who came on to talk about Nudget, his budgeting app. And Nudget continues to be a fantastic app for keeping track of your finances. In the new year, I think it's important. A lot of folks are looking for ways to set up a budget, maybe for the first time, or get back on track with their budget, particularly after the gift-giving holidays at the end of the year. You can kind of go, oh my, I overspent there a little bit, and I just want to get things back in order. Nudget can help you do this. Nudget is beautiful, but it doesn't sacrifice the functionality, the built-in feature set for being beautiful. It gets to be both. The design is great and the functionality is great. It's what I love about Nudget too is that there are a lot of apps out there that are doing integrations with your bank and are sort of taking all of that information to help provide you with an overview of the different accounts that you may have. But with that comes the opportunity for those services to take your information and use that for marketing purposes. Nudget is a private app. So yes, you may have to type in a lot of things when you get started by default. It's not going to automatically pull those things, but you are getting privacy in return. It's not going to be scooping up all of that financial information that you've put in there and using that to market to you. But you still get lots of cool graphs and charts and a little bit of information about what you're doing as you're working through it. Nudget is available for $9.99 in the App Store. And again, worth every penny as you are looking to budget and set things up for yourself. It's got widgets. It's got, as I said, graphs and charts. And what I like about it too is like the whole point is for it to be a quick way to go about tracking your expenditures. So it's, as soon as you launch the app, you can start to say, hey, I spent $4 on this, Tootsie Roll Pop. And so you could type it in immediately, as opposed to kind of like, oh, I've got to tap on this and tap on this and tap on that and tap on that. And then I'm finally able to log a purchase or expenditure. This tries to make it pretty quick to do. And I think that part is delightful. Plus the icon is delightful. The app icon is really well designed too. All right, let's move on to 1, 2, 3, count time.
Yeah, so this is actually an app that came across my field of view, as it were, thanks to a a question that a friend asked, because he wanted to know if there was a way that he could have a widget on his home screen that would count down to the same day and time every single week. So I did some digging around and I found Count Time, which essentially is a countdown of time remaining until the next whatever it is that you can put as a widget on your home screen. So what you can do in Count Time is you can add a new counter. You give it a name. There are different categories. So you can have birthdays, travel, others. I've added my own category for podcasts. And then you set the date and the time. You can choose a repeat, which is daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or no repeat for those things that you don't care about whether or not they repeat. And you can even add an alert or an image. So if I go back into iOS today and then I go into editing this one, then I can actually change this to podcasts and put that in my podcast category. And then when I go back here, then I can see, because this widget is set up to my podcast, that is showing me that I've got 6 days left until the next episode of iOS Today, which can be really nice. Sometimes you do just want to have a little bit of an overview of what's coming your way. Count Time has a couple of different size widgets. So it's got the small, the medium, and the large, and it's pretty simple. That's all there is to it. But I love the fact that you can actually have repeating things and count down the time to them. Oh, and the app's free. So, what is there not to like?
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. All right. This next one, I think everybody is becoming more and more aware, and this is not quite a pun. They're becoming more aware of the sort of benefits of mindfulness and meditation, and at the very least are hearing a lot about it from different folks. And so you may be curious to experience mindfulness and meditation for yourself, but you're not sure where to start or if it's for you and what exactly you need to do to experience this and to practice it. There are lots of apps out there, lots and lots and lots of apps out there, different services that do this. But the one that Rosemary added to the list today is one that we've talked about before on the show and is a pretty popular one. It's one that I've used before to help with meditation, with mindfulness, and that I've recommended to other people who've had trouble with sleep. And that app is called Calm. What a great name for an app that is trying to help you calm your loud, riotous mind. Tell us about Calm.
Well, what I really like about Calm, apart from the fact that it's a great app with a lovely UI, is that it also has widgets, because I really feel that one of the key things towards building a better you and whatever it is that you're aiming for is really putting these things in front of your face so that you see them and you're prompted to do them at a natural part of your day. And especially if on iOS you use widget stacks and you let it auto-rotate through the widgets, it will tend to suggest the right kind of widget at the right time of day for you, meaning that the right thing will be there. So when you go to look on your iPhone and you look at a stack of widgets, it should be suggesting Calm when you would probably be using Calm every day. And I really like that, because these apps, of course, as well, are just lovely to look at in the widget section. If you look at the widgets options for Calm, I have just had to reboot my phone because Calm was not showing up in the widget list, which is unfortunately an iOS bug. Sometimes you have to restart your iPhone and then reopen the app before the widgets will show up again. But when you do that, then you get all of these beautiful widget options. So what you have is you have a whole bunch of different pictures and icons, and these can take you straight into various different selections that you've made already. So for example, if you want to use the sleep stories to help you fall asleep, then you can jump straight to one of those. Now, if you combine this with something like a focus mode, especially the sleep focus mode, and you use the settings in the settings app for focus mode to change your home screen to a sleep home screen where the Calm widget is featured, or where indeed any other widget is featured, then that's hopefully going to help you get you into better sleep habits and give you the tools that you need at the time that you need them. And of course, if it looks pretty, that's always an extra checkbox, isn't it, Mikah?
It is indeed, yes. All right, we got 2 remaining apps. The first one that we'll talk about is another app made by an indie developer. This one is one for some folks who maybe your mindfulness surrounds eating. You want to be more mindful about what you are consuming in the new year. And that's a whole host of things. It can be about wanting to avoid certain types of foods or be more aware of your intake to make sure you're getting the necessary vitamins in a given day or the necessary protein or fats or carbohydrates or whatever it happens to be. There are lots of apps out there, but so many of them are ultimately about logging your habits so that they can give those or sell them to companies that are then going to market foods to you. And so when it comes to food tracking, you really want to find a food tracker that has your privacy in mind. Otherwise, you are just giving up a large chunk of your privacy as you just give this whole database of information about what things you consume. And so that's why FoodNoms, the food tracker, is such a good choice because it is simple, it is privacy focused, and as FoodNoms' own website says, it's a great MyFitnessPal alternative. And MyFitnessPal was kind of the one I was throwing some shade at for the less focus on privacy there that takes place. So tell us about FoodNoms and why it made the list for you.
Well, FoodNoms for me made the list because, of course, it's by an indie app developer, and there are lots of great indie app developers out there that, deserve recognition. But it really is the focus on the fact that I can easily scan in data. So, for example, if I buy something and it's not in the FoodNoms database, which it happens. They're not selling our data, which means that they don't also get to, just use all of our data for everybody else. There's unfortunately a little bit of a double edge there, but I can easily just, scan it in. And so we have in the UK, we have nutrition boxes on the side of most foods where you can see like all the calorie information and everything. FoodNoms can just scan this right in. And I love that. The fact that I can do that and then I can input another bit of information and then I can say, hey, I'm going to eat a cookie. And it tells me exactly how many calories that was. And I pretend that the number is considerably lower than it actually is. It also has an Apple Watch app because let's face it, if you're trying to do any of these things, you need it to be so easy that you will just do it. Because I don't know about you, Mikah, but you put the slightest obstacle in my way of achieving one of my health goals. I'm going to just sit on the sofa and eat chocolate for hours instead of actually doing like 3 minutes of yoga, whatever it is. And so I try to put it everywhere. And I love being able to get this information and see it. And of course, it integrates with Apple Health, which means that all of this data that you have input is put back into the Health app. It pulls data out of the Health app as well. And it's all there, but it's on your phone. It's not sending that data off to, some appetizer somewhere who's going to use it to sell you more cookies. Yes, people, if you show me cookie adverts, I will eat cookies. It's a guarantee. But you don't need to worry about that, your Instagram adverts are going to be fueled by the fact that you're tracking what you eat in an effort to try and, balance your diet out. Perhaps it's not one of those things to worry about. And it's also just beautiful. It works. It's pretty. It integrates with shortcuts. It integrates with Siri. It can do all of the things that you would expect a good iOS app to do. And the developer is working on a new version, but it's not going to be out for a little while. But it's great. I'm really excited by this.
Yes, absolutely. This is such a well-designed app that does not sacrifice on feature set for the design and can maintain privacy while still providing such incredible options like scanning the labels and using a huge database of information, of food information. The last one on the list is another goodie. It is a very simple app, but I just love that, sometimes you just come across an app and it's like, that is something very clever that I didn't realize I needed, but because of how it works, it's delightful. This one is called Cheatsheet. And tell us about how Cheatsheet can help you set yourself up for success in the new year.
Well, I mentioned before with Widgetsmith, you can create a text widget and put it on your home screen. And that's great. But sometimes you need a bit of an overview of all of those different things that you've got in there. Or you want perhaps the ability to create a new one via shortcuts or a little bit more easily go in and add emoji and things like that very quickly. And Cheatsheet is great for that because it has widget support. It has watchOS support. So you can have a cheat sheet show up in a complication on your Apple Watch face, which is really useful for those Amazon delivery codes, by the way. I had one of those last week. And I love the fact that it works really well for getting a whole bunch of information into an app, and then you can show it on your phone in a place where you actually need it. So you can have multiple cheats show in one widget, or you can have a whole widget dedicated to one longer cheat, whatever you like. You can get this information in and out in multiple ways. It works with the share sheet to share it to things like mail, but it's also got a custom keyboard. So if you enable the custom keyboard, then instead of having letters pop up and a spacebar, instead you have your cheats. So you can just tap them in, and that's really useful for bits of information that maybe you want to have to hand for a shorter period of time. Like, for example, if maybe, you are going on a trip, you put that travel information into a group of cheats. You can create a folder, and inside that folder, you can have all the information. And then when you're done, delete the folder. That information's gone. But while you're getting ready for that trip or preparing for things, then you've got that information and you can use that keyboard to input your flight reservation number the 80,000 times that you need it on whatever forms it is. If you're filling things out for reimbursement with a company, that can be quite tricky sometimes re-inputting all that information. So make it easy on yourself. Use Cheatsheet, and it can be used for, putting in your resolutions and anything else that you like. It also supports passcode lock and Face ID, I should mention, which is quite nice. Though, of course, if you're doing that, then consider whether or not you want those cheats shown in a widget on your home screen or in a complication on your Apple Watch.
Yes, absolutely. Be mindful there. Folks, that is that. There are loads of different apps and services out there. We think these are some of the best to get you kicked off and rolling for the new year. Of course, always feel free to reach out if there are some that you are using to set yourself up for success in the new year. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the news and the rest of the show. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by... God, I love them. It's Hover. It's time to make plans and let Hover help you achieve them. If you're a blogger, if you're creating a portfolio, if you're building an online store, or maybe you just want to make a more memorable redirect for your LinkedIn page, well, Hover has the best domain names and email addresses just for you. Email at your domain is key to connecting with customers and building trust for your brand. They have domain-based emails for all your needs, small or large. It's super easy to set up. You can add as many mailboxes to your domain as you need, and when your domain renews, well, your mailboxes will too. The prices are unbeatable. Their most popular mailbox is a no-brainer solution for business owners, and you can get access from anywhere. Use the email app you're already comfortable with, and if apps aren't your thing, well, their webmail can be accessed wherever you are. I am a big Hover fan because I use Hover all the time. Hover is so easy that oftentimes I'll make a joke on a podcast, and then suddenly I'm heading over to hover.com. I'm typing in the URL for some joke that I made and buying the domain in the moments while another person is speaking, and able to then talk about how I've just purchased a domain on a show. That's how easy Hover makes it. So it's so easy to find a domain. If you type in one and it's already taken, they give you so many great suggestions for other options. And the renewal features are very easy to use. I love that it supports Apple Pay. Like, there's so much about Hover to love, and that is why I go to it for my domains over and over and over and over again. There's no other option for me. It's Hover. That's it. Hover isn't here to upsell you on stuff you don't need either, because they just want to help. They have pro-level tools, so you get powerful domain and email management tools that are intuitive and easy to use, whether you're a web pro or you're just getting started. Plus, very importantly, it's private and secure. With Whois privacy protection included with your domain purchase, your private information will remain just that, private. It's a great way to reduce spam and protect yourself from unwanted solicitations. And Hover Connect lets you pick the service you want to use to build and host your website. Connect helps you start using your domain name with just a couple of clicks. At Hover, you're a customer, not a source of data. Take back control of your data with reliable, tracker-free email. Hover is trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers who use their domain names and email to turn their ideas into reality. Whether you're a developer, a photographer, or small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. That's hover.com/twit for 10% off your domain extension for a full year. And of course, we thank Hover for their support of this show and of the network. Thank you, Hover. All right, let's move into the news. This first one is an interesting story about Apple's new advertisements for the Apple Watch. They're kind of harrowing tales that are about people using the watch to be able to call emergency services. In the case of the United States, it's 911, different for different places. But it's a 1-minute spot, and you just get to hear someone calling 911 and being able to say, hey, here's what's going on. This is what I need help with. I think this is a bit of brilliant marketing. The Verge kind of has a little bit of an interesting take on it. It says Apple's new ad invites you to imagine dying alone without a watch on your wrist. Arguably, it's not saying, can you imagine a world without an Apple Watch? It's more saying, hey, this person had an Apple Watch on their wrist. They were able to call because they had this watch that has cellular service in order to place that call. So I don't quite think it's as fear-mongery as The Verge is making it out to be, but certainly Apple is using the fact that people have been in emergency situations before and have been able to use the watch in order to call for help. So again, take that as you will, but a very effective ad in any case, right?
Yeah. As somebody who has had a couple of accidents and my watch has offered to call the emergency services for me. Unfortunately, I've been conscious and able to say, no, I'm good, thanks. I just tripped and fell over a cable in my office again. It is one of those things that having experienced this and having had my watch offered to call 999 in my case here in the UK when I was in the US and fell over off a scooter and ended up with a broken ankle, it offered to call 911 for me because it is smart. It is one of those things where once you've actually experienced this sort of thing, you realize that this is useful. And I have to say, this feature is why my grandmother has an Apple Watch. I bought it after her pelvis fractured and shattered spontaneously, which can happen if you have very brittle bones. And she was in the garden and she had no way of calling for help because her phone was inside. And so, I decided to get her an Apple Watch, which was a little bit late, but better late than never. And fortunately, since then, she's not had to use it. I hope that continues to be the case. But for people who are perhaps, on the fence about something like this and whether or not it can be of use, it may only be a once in a lifetime thing. But if it's something that you are considering spending the money on anyway, knowing that your Apple Watch could help save your bacon or your life can be pretty powerful.
All right. Again, an interesting headline from The Verge.
Yes.
An Apple HomeKit bug can send iOS devices into a death spiral.
Yes. This is a bit dramatic.
Yeah, because it requires a lot of work to make this happen, right? Can you tell us about this bug?
Yeah. So essentially what it is just like people have previously experienced spam calendar invites happening and spam email being sent to their inbox and all of this kind of spam stuff. People have now found a new way to send a spam. Lovely. This time, people are being invited to HomeKit homes. Now, I would just like to start with a very simple statement. If you're invited to a HomeKit home and you're not expecting it, hit decline. Because whoever it is, if they genuinely meant to add you to their home, can send it again. And they should probably have sent you a heads up or a text message to say, hey, I'm going to add you to my HomeKit home. Like, have a look around. Feel free to turn off my lights while I'm recording a podcast. It's really useful for me, or something like that. So if you receive a HomeKit invitation to an Apple Home and you're not expecting one, just hit decline, and you will never, ever, ever see this bug. If you are invited to a HomeKit home and you accept it without checking and without knowing who it is, then apparently like there's a very weird edge case of if a device name is set to over 500,000 characters, then it can break things. So also please don't give your HomeKit devices really, 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 really long names. It's essentially, it will force your phone to just continually reboot every time you sign into iCloud, which is not a good experience. So don't accept HomeKit invitations from strangers, basically. It's fine. You can press a light switch. It'll still work.
Avoid the death spiral by not doing a thing that you shouldn't do anyway.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah. Just a little bit of common sense there, and I'm sure everyone will be fine. I don't think anybody listening to or watching this episode of iOS Today is the kind of person who will just click accept on a random HomeKit invitation. Why would they do that? But you're the kind of person who will know friends and family who might do that sort of thing. So maybe just pass the message along to them.
Indeed. Shout out to Apple for becoming I thought it was the US's first $3 trillion company. In any case, Apple's market cap reached $3 trillion. And that was, very briefly. It says the impressive feat, which Apple achieved when its stock price reached the $182.86 mark during intraday trading, came just 16 months after Apple became a $2 trillion company, and less than 3.5 years after Apple reached the $1 trillion mark. So is it ramping up? It seems to be. It could not be too terribly long until it gets $4 trillion.
Yep. As Federico Fetici said on Twitter, clearly this is the success of the polishing cloth, which they've recently launched as a standalone product that is driving this. I'm not entirely certain of how accurate that is, but I'm sure that all of those holiday sales that I'm sure some of us have made or been recipients of have contributed towards this. So well done, Apple.
Absolutely. Yeah. Apple, of course, is promoting its Fitness Plus service, which its services are actually the reason why the company is doing incredibly well in the face of course, iPhone sales do well and new Macs are doing well, but its services is quickly becoming an incredibly important part of its business. And part of that is Fitness Plus. So now Apple's own homepage, I think the last time I was there, mine did not look like that, but there is a homepage takeover for Apple's Fitness Plus. Yeah, now mine is showing that. So it must have been CMS thingy, not CMS, but anyway. Thank you, a caching thingy. So Fitness Plus is the service that lets you subscribe and be able to try out a bunch of different 11 workout types, including high intensity interval training, yoga, and everything in between. If you have an Apple Watch, it works even better. Because it can track your information and display it on whatever device you're using to view these workouts, be it your iPhone, your iPad, or an Apple TV. And so you can really get information about how your body is responding to these different things. You can see the calories you're burning. And these are workouts that are updated all the time. It is not as if you're going through and watching videos that are just sort of static videos. But these workout coaches are regularly uploading new content. So you're always getting new stuff, and you're able to check that out. So Apple, I think, will continue to push Apple Fitness Plus as a great way to get in that workout.
Yeah, there were 25 new workouts available for on Fitness Plus for this new year. So fingers crossed, we'll keep seeing more coming. But with 15 new regions that came last, I believe it was November, then I think things are definitely amping up there as well.
All right, folks, I think I hear the music. It's time for Shortcuts Corner. This is Shortcuts Corner, the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts requests, and Rosemary Orchard, the shortcuts expert, gives you a response. Our first Shortcuts Corner request comes from Ken. Ken writes in with the subject Eve Air Monitoring Automation. Hello, Micah and Rosemary. Hello, Ken. I recently picked up the new Eve Indoor Air Quality Monitor. I was wondering if there would be an automation triggered by the Eve monitor to trigger my Nest Thermostat to trigger the fan function for, say, 30 minutes. Thank you, Ken. So Ken is saying, and it depends on, whatever the air quality thing is. In this case, it would probably be CO2 or particulates in the air. And in the event that the Eve air quality monitor notices that the air is a little stale, then it will turn on the HVAC, the HVAC's fan, which will, of course, pull air throughout the home and help to circulate it. So using Eve for the Nest thermostat to tell the Nest, hey, I want to do this. And this is from Ken. Rosemary, tell us what your thoughts are here.
Well, my thoughts are we actually need two things to start with. So what I'm in the process of doing right now inside of the Home app is I'm creating a scene, because the first thing that we need to do here is actually have a scene which will turn on the fan. So I'm actually going to go, hopefully my living room, here it is, has a Dyson fan, and I'll just have a scene that turns this fan on. Now, I know this is in the living room. It says bedroom fan. You need to make sure that you choose the right accessories for your home here. But I'm giving it the name bedroom fan because that is what that's where my air quality monitor is. Now, I'm in the Shortcuts app creating this automation. You can also create an automation inside of the Home app, whichever way works for you, doesn't matter. Just make sure if you create it in the Shortcuts app, you use a home automation. Now, your Eve air quality monitor, I believe, has the same properties as my Netatmo air quality sensor. And so I've got the air quality sensor selected here as my sensor automation for the trigger. And then I can say when it rises above or when it drops below. So if the bedroom air quality drops below fair, then I can go ahead and do something. And then this is where I'm going to go ahead and select my bedroom fan on scene. And this is the part that's really important. Because it's turning on a scene, I can then tell it to turn off that scene after 30 minutes. And so that makes this magic happen. And then fingers crossed it should save. I believe it's having a little bit of a moment. So I'll just pop back. And then if I scroll down, I should be able to find somewhere in my very long list of automations. There we go. My air quality drops below fair in bedroom fan on is my scene. So just to make sure, when you create an automation inside the Shortcuts app, make sure it's a home automation and select the right home for you. Then a sensor detects something, and then you've got your options. So I have quite a few different options in the bedroom. I can also say when my carbon dioxide sensor detects high carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide sensor is one I don't have in HomeKit, unfortunately. I could say when the humidity sensor drops below 30%. Or you can say when a temperature sensor drops below 20 degrees, for example, to trigger this. So however you do things, or however your Eve air monitor shows up, I believe I have an option for you there, Ken. Just remember, create the scene and then have the scene turn off after your 30 minutes to automatically turn it off.
There you go, Ken. It's all figured out. The next one comes from Jason. Jason writes, "Good evening. I had to do that because there were 2 exclamation points. I have been trying to find a solution for 2 separate but related scenarios for productivity at work. While at work, I utilize things and drafts to organize my tasks and notes. Many times during the day, I am unable to answer a call, and I have a to-do titled calls for calls that I need to return. I would love to be able to automate this rather than typing in the contact into things each time. Similarly, I often receive text messages that I want to add to my tasks or notes like so. The message, then the contact information, then the date and time. I find it difficult to get the message and use it in Shortcuts. Can you help?" And this comes from Jason. This one's an interesting one because Apple increasingly has been kind of drawing an interesting line between some of the features, like the calling features for iPhone and messages, and what you can and can't interact with for privacy issues, for privacy reasons. So I'm curious if, Rosemary, you have a solution for this.
Well, I do have a solution. I actually have two solutions for Jason because there are two slightly different problems that he's got here that he needs us to solve. And so I'm actually going to start by tackling the text messages problem because that is a perhaps more difficult problem that people would think be completely unable to be solved, which is not the case. What you'll need to do is you'll need to create an automation inside of shortcuts for messages. Now, I've pre-selected Mikah here because otherwise it's going to pop up his phone number, but you can either do this based on a specific sender or based on the message containing a specific word or phrase. Now, you will need to do one of these to be able to create the automation. You can't do this on every single message, and you are going to have to run this automation when you get that text message. It can't just do it automatically. You're receiving a text message. You have zero control over this. So you need to confirm that you're okay with running an automation. And then what we can do is we can build some text based on some information. So we'll use the text action for that. And then we can use the shortcut input here. Now, if I tap on the shortcut input, it should give me some information. And you can see here, it's using the message. So it's actually got the entire message right there, which is exactly what Jason wanted. Okay, and so now I can just add a dash, and then I'll use the shortcut input again. But this time when I tap on it, I'll select sender. And then I will, and then I'll just add the date and time, and then that should give us all of the information that we need. And I can't get the date and time out of the message. So instead of the shortcut input, I need to use the magic variable here that's current date. And then it puts the date and the time in. And then, well, I'm going to assume that Jason wants to add this to things, which I do have on my iPad. And so then I can just say add to do, which just inputs that text, and then you can choose all of the information here. And then that's it. Whenever I get a message from Mikah, it's going to ask me if I want to add this to things and be done with it, which is a pretty good start. So I'm going to have to, manually select this. And I should note that because I've created this on my iPad, it will only run on my iPad. Automations do not sync between devices unless they are a home automation, in which case they're not actually even running on your device. They're running on whatever your HomeKit hub is, probably a HomePod, a HomePod Mini, or an Apple TV, maybe an iPad. But a personal automation is running on whatever device you created it on, and it doesn't sync anywhere else, which is why I usually recommend make it a shortcut and then use the run shortcut action in your automation for things like this. Now, the other thing that Jason wanted to be able to do is to be able to quickly note that he needs to call back a contact. And he doesn't want to have to type this information in all the time. So what we have here inside of the shortcuts app, if I create a new shortcut, is contacts. And then what we can do is we can say find contacts, and then we can add a filter. And so instead of the group is Christmas, I am just going to do first name is ask each time. Because what is going to happen now is it's going to ask me to type in the name. And then if I type in Mikah, then it will give me information. Now, it's also going to output his phone number. So I'm just going to click cancel there because I don't really want to show Mikah's phone number live on air to everybody. That wouldn't be fun. But instead, I am just going to go ahead and add a little bit more information. So once again, we're going to use that text action. And then I'm going to say call back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this contacts. And then I'll just input the full name. And then in brackets, I'll just add the date and time with this current date and time variable. And then once again, I'll put it in things, but you could put this in reminders. You could put it in drafts. You could do whatever you like with it. And if you tap on that little expansion arrow, then you can go ahead and add a whole bunch more info if you want. You can even put an ask each time in the notes, which means that when it gets to that point, it's going to ask you what notes you want to input for this task in things. So fingers crossed, Jason, this is going to give you some ideas. And then hopefully you're going to come back and say that you've got a whole bunch more automation questions that we can answer for you, because I do love helping people out.
Awesome. All right. We've got some feedback and questions coming up next. Feedback and questions. And of course, our app caps to round out the show. Steve writes in, my daughter gave us some temperature and motion sensors for Christmas, and we really like HomeKit. We managed to make some zones for upstairs, downstairs, and outside, but how can I change the order of rooms that appear in the list in the top left in the Home app? Thanks in advance, Steve. So Steve is talking about the list that appears. I guess this would be on an iPhone would be the best way to
yeah, it's on an iPhone,
that.
but it's also in the sidebar on an iPad. Now, full disclosure, Steve is my dad. I've already solved this problem for him because
this is lovely. Okay.
Yeah, because my dad got a little bit annoyed that the rooms that we'd created were not in the order that they were inside of the zones. So I bought them some temperature sensors for Christmas. They were having a lot of fun with that. And it was driving him slightly batty that you couldn't just change the order of things. Like, how do I do this? Like, there's no easy way. I'm trying to drag and hold on things. And on an iPad, you can change it, right? But on an iPhone, it's a bit more confusing. But this menu here, if you go into your room settings and then you go back to the rooms, there's a sneaky little edit button up there where then you can rearrange the order of things. And that's what I did. And that's how I fixed the rooms being in, as my dad said, the wrong order on his iPhone. And that did sync across to my iPad, my iPhone, my mum's iPad, and my mum's iPhone as well. And so they're everywhere for everyone now.
Hi, Steve. That's fantastic. All right. This next one comes from Zelko. Zelko writes, I was wondering if there is a way weekly bill/due reminders can pop up at the beginning of each week. I use the Prism app, but some apps it won't work with, for example, Capital One, and I find myself forgetting to go into and look to see what's due. So I'm hoping for something that will tell me I have 3 bills due next week on such and such day, and next week another reminder that 7 bills are due on those due days. Thanks for the help and for any suggestions. This one's a tough one because, and maybe Rosemary, you have an idea. For me, the problem with this one is that it is trying to pull information from a bunch of different things to be able to create these reminders. Now, it looks like you do have a suggestion here.
Yeah, I do. So this is an app that I usually use on my iPhone. Unfortunately, my iPhone is not working with eCam today, so I'm gonna have to show it on my iPad. But what I personally do is I keep track of my expenses and recurring subscriptions in an app called Bobby. I've also previously used an app called Chronicle, and this does require you to manually input this sort of thing. But then you can set things so that they're sorted by different things, and then per bill, you can also have a reminder set so that you can say that you want to be reminded on the same day, one day before, and so on and so forth. But this doesn't quite give you the granularity where you get an overview of all of the bills that are due in a specific week at the beginning of the week. And for that, I might be tempted to use reminders and build a shortcut, or just look for a great widget that can show you all of this information. But it is a bit of a tricky one to solve. And I'm hoping that, Mikey, you've got some ideas, and maybe our listeners have some suggestions to apps as well.
Yeah, this one's going to be one of those. We'll have to come back to you. If any listeners out there have some ideas for Zelko, let us know, because this one's just a tough one without what I would have to recommend in this situation is going to be one of those apps that you do type in your information. You do give them access through Plaid, for example, your banking information, and then they're able to give you reminders of when things are due. It seems like this one's going to require some real integration with your different financial stuff in order to provide those recommendations. So I'll keep an ear out from our listeners. I'll also look into this a little bit more, Zelko, and we will get back to you. In fact, I'm highlighting this request in our document so that exactly,
you to check it out.
Exactly, so that I can look into this some more, because this one's a toughie. All right, folks, we're nearly there. It is time for App Caps. This is the part of the show where we wear caps atop our heads to honor our app picks of the week. These are apps or gadgets. I forgot to mention gadgets that we are using that we think are awesome that we want to share with you all out there. So, Rosemary Orchard, tell us about the cap atop your head and your pick of the week.
This is a little bit more than a cap. I would say it's more of a hat extravaganza. Or a hot dog extravaganza. It's a hot dog hat because everyone loves a hot dog. And there's even some mustard on it. I think the ketchup's like hiding down the side or something. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. But my app of the week is Remind Me Faster, because I know a lot of people love the Reminders app, and the Reminders app is great. It works on all of your devices. It's free. It syncs. There's an awful lot going for it. But sometimes getting things into reminders really quickly, or getting lots of things into reminders really quickly, can be a bit of a pain. And this app came across, I believe it was my Twitter feed earlier this week. And it's just called Remind Me Faster. So you can easily add things to your reminders list, whichever list you want. So if I want to be reminded of carrots, I type carrots and done. And that's it. I'm not being distracted by seeing all of the other things in my reminders. If I want to switch, I just tap on the list. And then I can say, for example, in my personal list, remind me to empty the dishwasher. And I can set a time for this quickly using one of these fast times right here. I tap it and then bam, I tapped 1800, which is 6 p.m. And it's going to remind me, 9 minutes ago. So that one will be overdue, but I can easily tap the +1 hour to add to that. Just kind of like we were saying earlier with due, there's that functionality. There's also location options, which I've cleverly not defined on this iPad. You can set the priority of something really quickly. And there's other options as well. Now, the other options include things like natural language input, which is 99 cents to unlock. Customizing the preset times is 99 cents. Though you can turn on a toggle that says go to tomorrow if time has passed. So that 1800 reminder that I was adding would automatically be due at 1800 tomorrow rather than 1800 today if I have that turned on. You can also round to minutes when incrementing. So it rounds to the closest 5, 10, 15, 30, or 60 minutes. And it's also got a shortcut back on the main screen for me to easily jump, if I tap the right thing, straight into reminders where you can now see my groceries list contains peanut butter and carrots. Maybe I should possibly branch out my diet a little bit more, Micah. I'm feeling like maybe my New Year's resolution of being a bit healthier and looking after my body is possibly not going to go so well with just peanut butter and carrots there. But hey, with Remind Me Faster, I can get some more items into that list quickly.
Indeed. I like, the idea of like, just set this reminder. That's all I want. I just want it to happen quickly. This is so easy to do. Yeah, very cool. So I had some leftover yarn that I needed something to do with. So I knitted up a hat over the holiday break real quick. And that is what I'm wearing atop my head today. Just a gray and white, stockinette stitch hat, which is just all knits. I think that's stockinette. I can't remember for sure. So don't quote me on that, but it's completely knits, no pearls. And yeah, that's the cap I'm wearing atop my head today. It's keeping me warm in this very cool weather we have here. But the app that I want to talk about is called Townscaper. And this is easily an incredibly, thank you, in the Discord chat, there was a confirmation stockinette is the all knit stitch. So this app is called Townscaper. It's available for $4.99 in the App Store. And it's just a nice way to make a beautiful city. So it starts you out with a little kind of starting zone. You've got some stairs that lead down into the water. You've got a yellow house on one side and kind of a red tower on the other side with some bushes. Now watch what happens. I'm going to choose a color. We'll go with purple in honor of Rosemary. And then I will tap somewhere on the screen. I can tap anywhere, but I'm going to tap over here in the water to add some more land, or I guess in this case, it's kind of a brick area to my already existing city. And let me rotate. And you can see that as I'm doing this, it sort of procedurally generates tunnels and viaducts and things like that. So now that I've got a little bit more to build on, now when I tap on top of the area, you can see that it makes me a little purple house. But if I tap to the right of it, then it'll go ahead and extend that house. You see now there's a bench in front. I can tap, oops, I tapped in the wrong spot. I can tap up to create a tower there in purple. And then let's go ahead and change the color to a red, and we'll tap on top. I did it again. Tap on top of that, and you can see now we've got a nice purple and red area here. Now, what I love about this is that it will kind of automatically adjust the way that you're building out this space based on where you're tapping and what you're adding, so that it kind of makes sense. Look, there's a little mailbox there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's a little viewer area where they can look out. There are some birds over here in the trees. I'm going to go ahead and tap to extend this a little bit. And then I will add, let's go with a white area over here in the corner. And you can see now we've got some stairs down. And this is, I know this seems kind of silly, but this is truly what the game, the activity is. You can just build out a beautiful little city. And you can create just this nice little vista. And what I like too is that over here, you've got options to adjust the grid as you want to. You can make adjustments to the shadows and the lights, so you can set that up how you want, and make the colors, kind of the shading of the colors a little bit different. So here you can see how you can make adjustments to where the sun is shining on it. And then this shows you the grid so that you can see how far out you're able to build. So I'll turn that off. Again, I forgot now how to do that. Oh, there we go. Now you can see that there's this nice grid on the outside that you can use to start to build out your city as you want to. This is all there is to it. It is a simple little kind of meditative game, and you can make all sorts of different cities as you just build out. It's got delightful sound and music that plays in the background. So if you're just looking to kind of build out a little cityscape, then you can do so with Townscaper, available for $4.99 in the App Store. All sorts of options there. Folks, that brings us to the end of this episode of iOS Today. All that's left is to tell you, if you have questions, if you have Shortcuts Corner requests, etc., send those to iostoday@twit.tv. We record the show live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, which is 9 a.m. Pacific time. But we think that the best way for you to get the show, if you really want to make sure you get it as soon as it's available, is by going to twit.tv/iOS and subscribing to the show. We've got it in audio and video formats across all sorts of different services: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc. So we are in all those places, or try to be in all those places. We think the video version of the show is the best version of the show, but we do our best to give you descriptions so that the audio version is just as enjoyable. This is a great time to mention our growing and very awesome Club Twit membership. For $7 a month, you head to twit.tv/clubtwit to sign up. You get all of the shows ad-free. So you'll get this, it's kind of cool. You get your own little feed for each of the shows. You can get those and they will be ad-free. You get access to the Twit Plus bonus content feed that has content you won't find anywhere else. There's behind the scenes, special content from stuff that's been put together over time, and access to the members only Discord server, which if you've ever used Slack or Microsoft Teams, you'll be familiar with this kind of thing. It's a place for you to go and chat with other members. Currently, lots of conversation about crochet, about knitting, and about the different stitches that one can do in the Discord, as that was the conversation we were having earlier. We think it's so much fun to hang out there. It's also a great place to leave your feedback and questions because there can be kind of a back and forth with that. All of that, twit.tv/clubtwit, if that sounds good to you. $7 a month for that. We also got some feedback that some folks wanted to support their shows, their favorite shows directly, and weren't kind of concerned about all the extra stuff. So we figured out a way to do that with Apple Podcasts. If you go and find the audio version of iOS Today, You can tap to subscribe for $2.99 a month, and you will get an ad-free version of the audio podcast. So that's a great way to show your support directly if you'd like to do that. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great work, where do they go to do so?
The best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to me, all the things I do, and all the places you can find me online. You can, of course, find me in the Club Twit Discord, where I am always trying to keep and track of all the conversations going on there and grab some questions for the feedback. And you can also find me on Twitter with the username Rosemary Orchard. Mikah, what about you?
You can find me online at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where you can find links to the places I'm most active online. With that, we bid you adieu and say goodbye until next time. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of iOS Today, and I'll see you next week with my favorite guest host, Dan Morin. And then Rosemary Orchard will be back the following week. So stay tuned for that, and goodbye.
Have you ever read a tech news story and thought to yourself, man, I would love to talk to the person who wrote this to find out more information? Well, that's exactly what Mikah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, do each and every week on Tech News Weekly. We read the stories that matter to us, we reach out to the people making and breaking the tech news, and we invite them on to tell their story. And you can find it at twit.tv. Look for Tech News Weekly every Thursday.